Dad, what's wrong with AIDS? Why doesn't anyone want me to give them AIDS? There he is, beating that dead horse. Get him!
So the title of this video, Beating a Dead Horse, is a double entendre. It's me doing this video after the internet has just taken a giant collective shit all over it, and then to Fox or James Cameron or whoever for trying to get more out of whatever the heck was left out of the Terminator franchise. But take it as you will. So before I get to Dark Fate, I'd like to talk about the Terminator franchise in general. I'll start off in 1984. The Terminator is released to audiences. It is loved by critics and audiences alike. It takes the simple premise of time-traveling killer robots, pairing it with the memorable characters, great 80s action, a threatening villain, quotable dialogue, and breakthrough special effects. Then, 7 years later, we got Terminator 2. This is widely regarded as one of the greatest action movies of all time, with everything I just previously mentioned significantly improved on. Just see Entertain the Elks video on the day the Terminator franchise died a few days ago, as he gives a really detailed way of how to improve upon the original in a sequel. But this film had an extremely emotional ending, and it was over. Judgment Day was stopped, and the T-800 sacrificed himself. You know, no fate but what we make for ourselves. The future is unwritten. Then Terminator 3 came out, and we only learned that their actions would only prolong the inevitable, making any attempt to stop Judgment Day in the past pretty pointless. Salvation sucked despite having an interesting premise, and then in 2015 we got the nostalgia-fueled Terminator Genesis, with a Y. The film completely relied on the nostalgia of the first two films with a terribly over-convoluted plot, retroactively scrapping the first two films as well from existence. The first 20 minutes were okay, but once Arnold showed up, the film goes straight down a slope, with a horrible twist and some of the acting being terrible. Now we get to Terminator Dark Fate. Before this film came out, it was announced that Linda Hamilton would be involved. Okay, cool. Edward Furlong can't be in the film, because look at him. And I'd just like to rant on some of those stupid YouTube critique channels that said this was done because of SJW points. These fucking idiots haven't seen what has become of Edward Furlong. He looks like this, and how terrible would it have been for this film? But because of the dumbasses who are so intent on their clickbaity
Terminator SJW garbage
or
social justice killed the Terminator films,
they're the same people who complain about Hollywood diversity, just because the main character is not a boring white guy. This means they clamber all over that shit calling it SJW propaganda or something like that. Tell me whether the movie is good or not. Not that you feel attacked that we have a female lead in a testosterone-fueled action franchise. It's like when Captain Marvel was about to come out and all those people calling it SJW propaganda when the film was still a month out from being released. But no, Terminator Dark Fate is not bad because of any political statements it tries to put in. Terminator Dark Fate is bad because of storytelling, dialogue, action, CGI, and just general filmmaking. Not because, oh, there are 3 female leads, I'm mad. Just shut the fuck up! Like, if you're one of those people who has a problem with the fact that there are 3 female leads in this film, seriously...
well, someone's responding to diversity negatively. Fuck them, you know?
Yeah.
So the film starts out with footage from T2, making you think that this will be okay. And then, oh, what? This kid's just dead. It completely deflates the ending of Terminator 2. Like, they just kept sending back random Terminators even though they'd stopped Judgment Day. Miles Dyson was dead, and there shouldn't have been a way. Now there's this thing called Legion which exists. It's the same thing as Genesis was. It's like a Trojan horse for Skynet that can do whatever the plot needs it to do. And in this, the worst thing it does is just exist. So anyway, John is dead, and I'd like to point out that the CGI on him and Sarah Connor is actually really well done. It's not jarring at all. But then we jump to modern day where we get our new Terminator. Grace comes from the future, and we get a scene like when Arnie comes to 1984 for the first time. She steals clothes and drives away. So Grace has been sent to protect Danny, and Gabriel Luna's Terminator is sent to kill her. So it's literally the same as Terminator 2, and it's meant to be a surprise, but if you saw the trailer, you already know who's good. So it's just Terminator 2, and it's meant to be a surprise, but if you saw the trailer, you already know who's good. So Danny and her brother go to work at an engineering plant, and Natalie Reyes' acting is... it's bad.
3,000 people out there. What happens if I tell them they're just keeping a spot worm for some machine?
She gives so many emotional speeches throughout this film, and there's nothing relatable about her character. She just blindly accepts everything that happens to her in this film. And the Terminators come and Grace is good and the other guy is bad, and then they have some dumb action scene. Look, at this point in the Terminator franchise, I've seen so many fucking fights between machines and it's just all the same shit. We get a scene that's trying to be like the truck chase with the carnage and everything, but just falls flat. So it looks like it's about to get interesting when they crash. But here I'd also like to point out how limiting the idea of the further exploration of the Terminator movies are. The machine will kill you, full stop. What if we could see her kidnapped? Try and get something new out of the Terminator. Perhaps show some humanity coming in, just something new. Instead, they just shoot 'em up romps with no stakes anymore because Judgment Day is inevitable. Now, I know this sort of thing happens later in the film, but in that version it's extremely done and not done to further anything. It's just a dumb plot contrivance so Arnie can show up. So Sarah Connor shows up and explains that the Terminators have been sent back in time and she's been picking them off one by one, getting reports from an anonymous source on her phone of where they will be, with a little end message saying for John. We'll learn more of Grace's past and how she was a fighter in the war against the machines, and that Legion came to power by hacking computers, so apparently humanity's response was to nuke them. What? Sure, in the other films the machines were taking control of our weapons, but here we did it ourselves. That's so stupid. No leader would ever do something like this. And no, I'm not gonna make a Donald Trump joke. So we find out that Danny's son is gonna lead the resistance, and Sarah gives us this magical line which...
But I'm nothing. I'm nobody.
Well, you're not the threat. It's your womb.
I kind of like, but it's also really silly. Also, this film, it's just boring. So much of it is just the characters trying to catch us up on the dumb reason Skynet is back. It also makes a lot of sense that the guy who wrote Batman v Superman wrote this. There are just so many scenes where they try and mask the fact that they're just exposition scenes by traveling. We are going to a place. Let's have them explain why they are doing the thing instead of establishing the characters. Remember in the first film when we get our exposition in an extremely exciting and tense way when Kyle and Sarah are in the parking lot? And we also have scenes where the characters are built without just sitting around and doing nothing. I actually enjoyed this crossing the border scene. The way that it's shot and build up is fairly decent, but then they get caught immediately. Get more bad dialogue, they get carted off to jail, and then immediately break out again because of the Rev 9. Also, I gotta say there was never a moment in the film where I found him intimidating. He's just an alternate version of the T-1000 again, which has been in every single film since T2. They can't die, which just makes every scene feel just pointless. He's kind of like a wily coyote. He's always a threat, but he's never actually gonna get him. So they go to find the person who's been messaging Sarah and oh no. Go away. So now it turns out that Arnie has been messaging Sarah, and in the years since John's death, he has been growing self-consciousness and even has a family. Like, this shit is so dumb, and I'm not sure why they thought it was necessary to allow him to feel sympathy. Just serves as a plot convenience. Not that Sarah's smart in using her experience with Terminators to hunt them down, but she's just been getting random texts about the bad guys. So blah blah blah, Danny gets training, we find out that she's a replacement for John in the future, not her child. And when I heard this line uttered like this...
You taught us there is no fate but what we make for ourselves.
I honestly slumped to the floor laughing. It was just dreadful. And then we get 20 minutes of crazy over-the-top action which all feels weightless. Compare this to the climax of the first film. It is literally two people running through a small area while a metal monster chases them. It's absolutely brilliant and intimate as well, which makes it scary. Here there are planes crashing into each other, jeeps falling out of the sky and down dams, underwater gunfights before they have that final fight. So Arnie sacrifices himself yet again, and then Danny and Sarah prepare for the apocalypse while trying to protect Grace. Thank God that's over. I'm sorry if I kind of phoned in the last half of the review. Seriously was having trouble getting through this film, but yeah, it really sucks. The dialogue, the acting, the pacing of the story, the ridiculous nature of the action scenes, the lack of personality, the plot conveniences, and how the film just kind of goes completely against what Terminator 2 set up. It just makes this film a failure. Look, here's what I would have done with this story, because this one's such a lazy idea. It's just Terminator 2 mixed with Terminator 1 like the past two films have just been. I'm gonna have some fun with this, get a bit crazy. How about we have some sort of hacking plot where the Russians create super robotic spies who have come to kill US officials, and Sarah Connor has to save them. Maybe even have John Connor,
not played by Edward Furlong,
and they're called back into action, and their paranoia after the first two films causes them to go overboard. They might go insane not knowing who's a Terminator and who's not. This causes them to go overboard, they're thrown in jail, and this event sets off Judgment Day in the future. And them being in jail, added with the element of the Russian Terminators, causes Judgment Day to happen in the future once again, causing a human, Danny, to come back in time to help break them out of prison and help stop the Russians from starting an apocalypse. And then hey, you know, John and Danny can fall in love along the way. Danny is kind of reluctant towards it and is purely focused on the mission, but She can't help fight her feelings for John, and let's just say before she went back, she witnessed him die in battle. Also, we can get creative with the action scenes instead of boring over the top schlock. We have these scenes where they're trying to protect these politicians and other people, and there may be corrupt politics who want this takeover. I don't know, just don't take these movies too seriously anymore. They can't just have fun with it. Also, in my idea, Arnold doesn't have to get involved for some stupid reason. But hey, if you think that's good, tell me, or don't, I don't care. So Terminator Dark Fate. Yeah, it's just beating a dead horse that is currently the Terminator franchise. So thanks for watching. I'm currently working on a video planning out James Bond v Ethan Hunt from the Mission Impossible films, like a story taking place after the events of Spectre and Fallout, so hopefully I can get that out within the next week. So please subscribe to the Young Cynics for that, and until next time, bye!